Let's do the news. In our first story, the minority in parliament is mounting pressure on government to shut all senior high schools across Ghana following recorded cases of coronavirus in some schools. According to Deputy Ranking Member of Parliament Committee on Education, Dr. Clement Park, students, teachers and staff of the various senior high schools are currently living in fear over the COVID-19 infections. The Busan South Member of Parliament said the only solution to prevent wider spread of the virus among students is the closure of the schools.
In the wake of COVID-19, many educationists, specialists, stakeholders had all suggested that it was best to close down schools. That was done. But later on, government decided to reopen the schools. When that decision was made, there was a lot of opposition. Now we know that various campuses have recorded infections of COVID-19. The Accra Girls example is but one. The reason why many of you in the media and Ghanaians are not fully apprised about what is going on is because of the restrictions that the ministry through GS has placed. As we know, even parents are not allowed to have access to the awards. Government has said that the reason for the reopening of schools was to prepare the students to take their final exams. Given that at the time the schools were reopened, the case count was only about 12,000. And today we are speaking about a case count in excess of 20,000. We believe, parents believe, the teacher unions believe that the motive for which schools were reopened cannot be achieved. Like other countries, which reopened schools and as a result of infections in those schools had to close them down. There's no reason why we can't do that. France did it, Israel did it, Germany did it. Once we now know that the pandemic is present on our campuses, why are we keeping the students there? If cabinet can be suspended 2 weeks in a row because there is a suspicion that the virus is present among higher government officials, so why are we saying that the students should be in school when their colleagues have tested positive? Don't they also deserve the same attention that high government officials are getting?
Dr. Park added that before the closure of the schools, government should make sure it conducts mass testing of COVID-19 for all students and teachers on the various campuses before they allow the student to join their parents at home.
Now that we know that the virus is present on campuses, I think that the best thing would be to test them, which we had requested earlier on, and then let them go home. Because, as I said, the conditions are not conducive. The anxiety, the fear, the emotional torture of being on campus and not knowing what is going on, whether you even have the virus or not. Everyone is being suspicious of the other person. And remember that even the PPEs are not even readily available.
Parliament. The Electoral Commission has defended its decision to continue with the ongoing voters' ID card registration across the country amidst the coronavirus pandemic. The EC says if calls by doctors and other groups for the suspension of the exercise are anything to go by, then the Commission might as well suspend the December 7 polls. Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Mrs. Jim Mensah, was addressing the maiden edition of the Electoral Commission's encounter with the media dubbed "Let the Citizens Know." Latif Idris has more in the following reports.
2,215,816 people have registered for the voters' ID. That is according to the Electoral Commission at the end of the first batch of the first phase of the exercise. The EC says the number exceeds targets they set for themselves before the exercise started a week ago.
There's a lot of monitoring on our level, and we've sent out monitors into the field who are regularly on updating us. So on every day you have the information, and you can ask that, oh, this person is not doing well, withdraw this person, and so on and so forth. As we mentioned, the target per day was to have been 100 at least. But everybody, there's an average of 150. And in some cases, you find people who are very exceptional, who are able to do 280 plus.
There have been concerns about overcrowding at the various registration centers, with some, including a team of doctors, petitioning the Electoral Commission to suspend the ongoing exercise over fears of spike in the spread of the coronavirus. But the Electoral Commission disagrees.
We would like for you to help us with feedback, to feedback how to improve upon our processes. Of course, while still asking your questions. But if we ask the questions, should we stop? Then I think we should also put aside and go to bed and say that the election should not come on the 7th and that it should be postponed one more year.
We think at this stage of the process, we don't think it's appropriate to come and answer that question. Is it prudent for us to continue with the one we are mandated to do? I don't know if people are going to ask you, is it prudent for you to eat at this time? So please, media, we want you to support what we are doing. It doesn't suggest that you can just ask. GMA can say whatever they want to ask. But please, when you come here, this is our platform to project the work the commission is doing. I don't think it's appropriate for you to ask us, is it prudent to continue with our mandate?
The EC says, let the citizen know series, which will happen twice a week.
We believe that this platform would afford us an opportunity to provide timely information on a regular basis to the citizenry. We are confident that by doing so, we will demystify the operations of the Commission and remove the cloaks of secrecy that had hitherto shrouded our work.
Let the Citizen Know series is meant to demonstrate transparency and demystify the Commission's work and also remove the veil of secrecy which has characterized their operations over the years.
Meanwhile, the Ashanti Regional Police Command has warned it will deal with political party agents and others whose misconduct disrupt the ongoing voter registration exercise. Regional Deputy Commander, DCOP David Ajemain Ajim, observes the exercise is already characterized by tension created by the two main political parties, the MPP and the NDC. Ohimin Tewia has more.
The warning comes as police arrest a group of NDC supporters at Santase last Thursday. Police say the group had attempted to seize registration equipment of the Electoral Commission when a police patrol team swiftly arrived to arrest them. DCOP Ajman Ajem says the command is enforcing to the latter a RESEC directive prohibiting people from massing up at the registration centers to cause chaos.
The Regional Security Council has come up with a number of measures, including people not riding close to a polling station, people not massing up at the polling stations and things like that. We are enforcing them. We have a number of patrol teams who are patrolling the city. And so when we come to the polling stations and people misconduct themselves, we ensure that the law takes its course. I think there was another incident in one of the communities where some persons were party people. The two parties had differences, and one party decided to hijack the process by attempting to seize the EC equipment. They were swiftly arrested and they are still in custody.
The deputy commander says police are keeping an eye on hotspots like Aswasi, where some NDC agents were arrested for alleged illegal possession of registration forms.
We know the hotspots in Kumasi. We know that Asokori Mampo and the sitting MP and the MC have had their own back and forth on radio. But we are not concerned with that. As I've said, this is a national exercise and we want it to remain a national exercise. If anybody has a problem, the problem has to be addressed to the Electoral Commission. So nobody, as I'm told by the EC, must not be prevented from registering. But if there are political party people there who have problems with that person, they must fill a form. But nobody will be allowed to mar the exercise. We will not allow that to happen in this region. We will not allow that. We will deal with that person and make sure that the law takes its course.
Meanwhile, The command warns people who flout mask wearing and other COVID-19 safety protocols risk arrest and prosecution. DCOP Ajiman Ajem says more personnel will be deployed at the registration centers on the streets to enforce the regulations. The warning comes as police arrest 2 people for failing to wear face masks and adhere to other safety protocols. The ongoing voter registration exercise has been characterized by continued flouting with impunity COVID-19 preventive measures. An executive instrument signed by President Akufo-Addo on June 15, 2020 makes wearing of face masks or shields in public mandatory. Offenders risk up to 10 years imprisonment or a fine of between 12,000 and 60,000 Ghana cedis. It authorizes police to make random checks to ensure enforcement compliance. DCOP Ajiman Ajem says there's still work to be done at the registration centers despite police enforcement operations.
It becomes criminal if we come and find somebody not wearing their face mask. Very soon, you see a lot more persons being arrested. So people must ensure that when they go to the police stations, they shall wear a face mask. Otherwise, they will force us to arrest and prosecute them.
From Kumasi, for Joy News, Ohime Interior reporting.
On mainstream politics, a group calling itself Intellectual Ladies of the National Democratic Congress says the nomination of former Education Minister Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman as a running mate to John Dramani Mahama shows there's hope for female politicians. Leader of the group, Lateef Khalid Ashika, at a press conference in Wa, thanked John Mahama for giving women a chance to prove their worth. Rafiq Salam has more. Well, that's it. Ochame Kwame with his latest, and I know that this one with a tinge of traditional Ga songs, traditional Ga high life would also take you to the inside sections of Bukom and the rest of Jamestown, etc. Particularly, I love Akotolante. All residents of Akotolante watching me this morning, I say, Charlie Minganyefe. But in the meantime, let me say good morning to Sally Fukombat. You're the head of primary healthcare pharmacy, the Boku Presbyterian Hospital, and do enjoy your time as well. I have Inshira joining me this morning. Inshira, good morning to you. Okay, so Inshira will join me soon. So let me take a look at the Ghanaian Times and... No, let me look at the Daily Graphic. The front page of the Daily Graphic has a number of stories. I showed that to you earlier on board broadly. It says COVID-19 infection, state institutions shut down. In this story, we also looked at it right on Joy FM and the rest of the channel, also Joy News as well, about how this is ravaging human resource, affecting efficiency across many of the institutions. Indeed, it's not only state enterprises. We do have private corporate institutions also affected. The Graphic MNG Consult partner to coach JHS students. And we have down the GES investigate the death of KNUSC senior high school students and headmistress interdicted. Emmanuel Kwesi Debra, our lead correspondent on that one, had been updating us about 48 hours ago, as well as over Ohime Interior also continuing over the last 24 hours. So we'll get the latest update from there and get to know. EC is also launching campaign on transparency for elections 2020. And this is coming out of that briefing that the Electoral Commission says it is now going to give the Ghanaian public through the media. And then we have on page 26, close schools now to end spread of COVID-19 on campuses. Dr. Clementa Park, a deputy ranking on the Education Committee of Parliament, put together a press conference or convened that news conference with a press call in Parliament and then raised such fears. Indeed, he's not the only one who has been harboring such fears, but, you know, I'm sure officialdom will take a decision that is in the right stead or perspective for everybody, every stakeholder. There's a story on page 24 of the Daily Graphic, and it says Sergeant Awuni has been rewarded for professionalism, and this one is coming from the Malcolm Group, and it's because of his work on the road. He's with the MTTD, that's the Motor Traffic and Transport Department of the Ghana Police Service. Sergeant Andrea Awuni, his name is there, and doing some great work. Charlie, good commendations coming to you as well. So that's where it is. Okay. Let me get to the back page. The back page of the Daily Graphic says the Agric Ministry is introducing rewarding system. Informants get 20% face value of seized items. And we know that many of government-sponsored or funded fertilizers for farmers have been crisscrossing our borders to neighboring countries. So human beings have been blocked from making entry into Ghana with various military personnel deployed across unorthodox or unofficial routes. So we have Togo, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, but we're not able to block the outbound of fertilizers. Very surprising, right? Yeah, I don't know how we do it. Oh, very, yeah. So the human beings carry the fertilizers over, but human beings are not able to cross. I don't know how we do that, yeah. 11 in Katsina Nankana riot sentence. It's also on the back page of the Daily Graphic. I've been joined by Inshira, as earlier on told you. Inshira, good morning to you.
Good morning, Roland. How are you?
Charlie, I'm fine. Charlie, I love the way you're very active this morning. I'm sure some warm water is making you sound very good as well. So you'll be doing the Ghanaian.
Well, you always have to be happy when you rise up in the morning, because it's a new day with new masses, and you just have to bask in that. So that's why I'm happy.
Yeah, great.
So I have 4 papers to bring you. The Ghanaian Times front page says the EC targets 15 million Ghanaian voters for the December 2020 elections. Of course, quite a number of controversies surrounding the compilation of the voter register itself. Also on the same front page, COVID-19, Chief Justice self-isolates for 14 days, and this is after a senior judge had passed away a few days ago, and the government spends over 233 million Ghana cedis on nationwide free water supply. On the front page of the Daily Guide, the story of the CJ is also on there. Top judge dead, CJ isolates, and that's how they capture that story. On the front page of the Business Finder, woes of businesses persist is the banner headline on there. And then over to the Business and Financial Times, banks, fintechs partnership would speed up digitization agenda. Of course, COVID-19 has really pushed us quickly into digitizing quite a number of processes, and they believe that it will go a long way if the banks and fintechs form a stronger partnership. Finally, from the BNFT, IFC, that's International Finance Corporation, which is part of the private sector arm of the World Bank, to provide $5 million plus for funding for Nyaho Medical to expand their operations. And those are the headlines for now.
Well, so let's move on and look at some others that we have as well. I have the Daily Dispatch has on the front page, most women do not vote on gender lines. And I guess this is to put into perspective all the all the good reactions that Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman's nomination as the running mate to John Dramani Mahama is coming with. And we know that this looks like has been received well. That many had thought would not be. And I don't know whether this will be tested. This headline will be tested. Most women do not vote on gender lines. And so we'll see how it goes as far as this is concerned.
Yeah.
And this is a news.
Well, I mean, it's quite interesting that, they say women do not vote along gender lines. maybe they've not been presented with that opportunity. And who knows that with all the changes that we're seeing around us in the world, this might be the beginning of a new trend. And I personally do not see anything wrong with the gender of a person in a position of influence or authority. The bottom line for me is competence before anything else. If the person can do the work, then why not give them the support and the endorsement and room to be able to do that? You know, of course, we're in the political season, as Barack Obama referred to it as the silly season. So you can expect to hear some very outlandish things, although some of them, in my opinion, could have been better timed and well worded. To make a point. I think that some of it has not been in the greatest of taste. And this is not because it's a woman. I think even if it was said of a man, it's just not right to talk about people in certain terms. You can speak to their abilities, but you cannot say that, you know, you don't think that this person, you know, because they're a woman. I really think that as we go into the backstreet of the campaign towards the elections, the politicians will be circumspect in the way they speak. And I think the Ghanaian voter is evolving to the point where we can tell for ourselves, you know, who we would rather go with instead of have, you know, people throw quite a lot of diatribe. That's definitely not the way to go. And we can't continue doing those things.
Yeah, one thing I know that the Fourth Republic had come to stay, especially after 2000, the political salvos that are thrown by the two main parties towards each other in the electioneering. And I don't know whether it is us in the public space in terms of who have the opportunity to make the commentary and do the analysis, who may have been overestimating the negative impact of the statement that may have been coming from a number of individuals. And this even started with a reaction from the director of communication of the ruling party, that's the MPP, in that press conference. And then we've had a number of comments also followed by the majority leader, and even the general secretary of the ruling MPP as well has been also cited. You could hear him make such comments about whether if Professor Jane Nano Pukwajima was going through Makola or something, whether the category of women who would be waving at her or be reacting to her. And I don't know whether it is us who are overestimating the negative impact or that it is just the normal political process. One thing I want to see is the fact that we've had a lot of young people comprising our population. And these young people also have, if not half or many of them being women or females. And we've had a lot of related gender-sensitive issues that have dominated discussions over the last year or two or three or four. And so we have young people who are women who have gravitated towards gender-related matters. And I don't know whether that can influence them, that they have somebody who has gone through the mill, has been very much disciplined, astute in her career, and so has reached the peak of any point in time when it comes to the political space, and so can influence them to vote. It's something I would want to see.
There are a number of factors that determine how people would vote. I mean, first of all, the key messaging is critical, and also how the party itself is able to position the candidate and have her in the right places, be seen and heard in the right places, saying the right thing. The opponents are also going to find a way to discredit the candidate, and that's what politicking is all about. So, but for me, my key concern is the tone of voice in which all of these things are done. I think that we've seen economies that evolve or have evolved and done well are not economies where people just, talk just because they have to talk. I mean, you speak when you have something to say, and you can articulate your point, which may discredit a person without you, diving into the gutter. And I think that's something we ought to look 4. Now, the other story that I thought we could look at is the Ghanaian Times front page story about the EC's target of 15 million voters. Let me just ask, how many people do you know who have actually gone out to register where you live?
I'm not sure I've been able to monitor that. The only figure I have in mind is what the EC has told us over the last day or two, that 2.2 million people had voted in the first 6 or 7 days of the exercise. Myself, in my household, I know that nobody has gone out, and it's only my partner or my wife and I who are the 2 adults who are eligible to go and register, and none of us have gone out yet. Yes.
Okay. Well, I haven't done that too. I'm hoping that I can do that over the weekend. But of course, with the numbers of the positive cases rising, I'm sure there are quite a number of concerns. The question, though, would be whether this would have a negative impact on the numbers at the end of the day, you know, and in relation to the target of 15 million. Quite a number of questions have also been asked. I mean, if the same paper talks about the CJ going into 14-day self-isolation. That story also ties into the Ministry of Finance asking staff to work from home. And I think Gridco also has recorded a case. Now, the refrain and the question that you're hearing now is, why are we still going on with this exercise where lots of people gather in places and register when offices like Gridco and the Ministry of Finance are asking people to actually stay at home? We're at the crossroads as a nation, in my opinion. I think that there's a lot of questions being asked about how we've managed the COVID-19 on this front in the country. We started out and seem to be doing well. The scientists will say that the more you test, the more you're going to find that people have the cases. But the spike, the space in which we climbed we had about 4,500 cases in a period of 10 days. That's a massive jump. The last jump of 992 cases in 1 day is very scary, is very disconcerting. The question will then be, are we going to be safe going out? Will we feel safe? What assurances do Ghanaians need to have to know that they can go out and register to vote and be safe? And beyond that, all the other activities that we are, embarking on, when we go out to work, when we go out to trade, and we go to the market, we need to move to earn. We need to move for the economy to also grow. So it's a bit of a conundrum, and I feel sorry for the guys at the helm of affairs because on one hand, it's very difficult to please everyone. Unfortunately, you might have some opposition to some of what you're doing, whether it's constructive criticism and a critique of what's being done, an appraisal of the policies and strategy, or whether it's opposition for opposition's sake. But over the next few weeks, we'll see exactly where we stand.
I think I have to gravitate towards the Electoral Commission. I think this process has started where in the 9th day, because it started on Tuesday of the last week. We've had 2 more days in addition, and that makes it the 9th day today. And I want this sort of support that is needed for the Electoral Commission to conduct this exercise in a manner that would also ensure all of us adhere to the protocols. We have to be right in our thoughts. The reason why we're having the numbers jump is not because the Electoral Commission is conducting the exercise. The reason why we're having the numbers jump is because we as a people who are supposed to go and do the registration and do other related actions in our lives daily are not adhering to the protocols. And these are the main reasons why we have the Cocoa Board, the BOST, you can name them, a number of all the organizations, even us, saying people should stay home because either they've tested or have been traced or contacted, etc. And it is the onus of all of us to ensure that the social distancing is is maintained and the other protocols are also observed. But the foremost responsibility should be with the Electoral Commission. What I have observed, though, is that it looks like the Electoral Commission seems to be passing the buck all the time to say this is an exercise that everybody's cooperation is needed. But you have the foremost responsibility, one, to have done education, and make sure that after that education, when the practicality of the exercise is being undertaken, you are enforcing the rules. And it is the non-enforcement of the rules that is creating the difficulties, giving us the second thought, being indecisive whether we're doing right as far as this exercise is concerned.
Yeah. That's a very fair point. I just would like to do this very last story. I think this has to do with the call for banks and fintechs to partner to speed up the rate of digitization of our economy. Now, it's a critical part. And I think one of the things that I would like to point is the Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement System, GIPS, and a partnership they've just done with GOIL a few days ago, where you can drive to a petrol station, buy petrol, and use your GH Link enabled card to be able to pay without having any human interaction. You can imagine being able to now stop at a petrol station in the middle of the night if you're traveling to fill up and continue. If we can see a lot more digital payments being created right here in Ghana, I think one of the things we overlook is that every transaction you do with any of the internationally recognized and accepted payment platforms, there's money that goes out of this country. There's money that goes to all these platforms that facilitate these payments. I think one other way is that we can deepen our own local or indigenous fintech industry, but more importantly, keep some money in this economy. In times like this, every peso counts. And if we can find ways to really deepen digitization and even digital transactions within the country, but on local platforms, I can foresee that being a very good thing for the economy. And also creating jobs, because quite a number of young startups, young people in startups who are doing work in fintech have some really brilliant ideas. And if we can get them all working towards making their own contributions towards ease of trade, ease of transaction, all of these things, it will go a long way to help the economy.
Well, I do agree with you. We all do know that getting everybody to participate in this revolution that we all have adopted and are seeing around as far as financial technology is concerned is to make sure everybody is hooked onto one database. And it's where I think that as a state and as a people and as a government, we failed. Because the National Identification Authority was supposed to have been the foremost authority or institution that would have created that database for us. It's been how many? From 2017, they promised us so many timelines, and they just haven't been able to.
No, you need to go. You need to go further back. You need to go back to I think 2007.
True.
The last term of President Kufuor. That's when this idea started. It's quite disturbing that 12 years down the line, we have not even done a full version, and we've sort of had to start the process all over again. I think we come up with great ideas, but our process and our execution has always left us, wanting. Because if we can get that right, okay, if we can get that right, it helps a lot of things. You look at the National Identification Database as a whole of a set, okay? If you want to take some details out of that for banking transactions, opening of a bank account and all of those things, social security, your passport, driver's license, that becomes the base database where everybody can go to and draw information. You understand? It seems that today, DVLA has procured their own biometrics, and you have to go and do that over there. You go to the passport office, they have their own biometrics and they have their own database. SNIT has its own. One day you might even end up having to go to the library and you would have to use biometrics. But the bottom line is this, that if we made one expenditure or procurement expenditure to get the act right from the beginning, we would have served all other entities that needed to get data verified from the National Identification Authority. Imagine your bank's terminal being able to access specific data that's relevant to their work at the click of a button, and they pay a subscription fee to the National Identification Authority. There are several organizations today that need to verify your information. All of these data, all the data can be made available to them based on the requirements that they have, and also within the remit and framework of the law that governs data management in this country. And you would see that we would move faster. But I think the procurement mentality is one thing that's not helped us. We come up with great ideas, and then you end up having to redo the same thing again. I don't know how long we're going to take to make sure that this time around we get it right. And if we do, it will change the way we do a lot of things. It will speed up the way things are checked. It will speed up the way, the speed of trust helps economies grow. And I'm not saying that there won't be people out there who might want to exploit the system, but the speed of trust in terms of when you go to a place that they can verify quickly that you are who you say you are, it means that things are done quicker, and the speed with which things are done has an impact on the economy itself.
Yeah. And I think that's where we need to speed things up. The most disappointing aspect of all this is that apart from us not meeting the timelines from 2017, we had a period when we should have done that. For example, from 2009 to 2016, nothing was done comprehensively because the government commitment at the time was poor towards this database that we needed to have put together. Look, if we
Can you imagine how many ghost names would be weeded out of our system if we had that working?
Exactly. And it keeps me wondering who is benefiting from all this when these timelines and we have all this lagging behind. Yeah. Well, we'll see how it goes. But Inshira, thank you for the update for this morning. What are you up to for the rest of the day, Inshira?
I am jumping on a call now to do my Talking Business segment on Joy Prime morning. And then I'll be filming Business Connect, which is my new show coming up on on Joy Prime.
Charlie, businessman for the day. I wish you all the best.
All right, Roland, take care. Have a good day.
You too, Inshira. And that's Inshira out there. But look, let's look at what is latest on our main portal, the best portal for the most aggregated news content in Ghana right now. MyJoyOnline.com has a lead story: suspected fraudster who allegedly infiltrated police in Kumasi arrested. Smart. Yeah. This is the watered down version of Hush Puppy. Couldn't do it like Hush Puppy. Tried just small time, no, they catch him. No try, cry. Hush Puppy at least enjoy the riches before he was caught. This one, low class Sakawa boy. Okay, so this is where it gets serious for all of us because we know we're in dire straits. And the latest case count, 854 new infection, sending Ghana's COVID-19 tally to 22,822 with 17,664 recoveries. In that interaction with Dr. Bernard Okuboy, who is Deputy Health Minister, one thing we did take out was that the national COVID team and the health management system we've had has been able to put into perspective or lower the mortalities or the deaths. And that is the good thing that we can take out of this. But it doesn't mean we have to take things for granted. The more we have the infections, it also means the health system could be overwhelmed, and that's just a possibility, but that's not what we're seeing now. The health institutions are worried that they are getting many of their personnel infected. 90% of one village, one dams cannot be used for irrigation purposes, according to a research that was conducted by the Peas and Farmers Association. And then we have workers of Ghana Airport Company demonstrating against alleged privatization plans, even though the bosses of the airport company and the Ministry of Aviation are saying that, look, you guys chill. That's not really the situation. But outsourcing is now the order of the day for many perspectives. It ensures proper management and utilization and return on investment for many facilities, ventures, and businesses. So I know the workers may be worried about their jobs, etc., but, you know, outsourcing is very good in many perspectives. Ghana will go ahead with WASSCE examinations despite Nigeria's pullout. Ghana Education Service, Chief Justice Kwesi Enini Yabwa in 14-day isolation over COVID-19 fears. Yeah, because down there, a Court of Appeal judge, very astute and then very learned and experienced, Justice Paul Jasiayo, has died. Jaisayo, oh, wow. Yeah. A man I've known over the years as well. I've seen him in the courts over the period. May so rest in peace. But we're taking a break. When we come back, we'll bring you the latest sports headlines.
Well, hi there. A very good morning to you, wherever you are. I'm Benedict Wusu, and it's time to update you in the world of sports. A lot to come your way this morning in the next 15 minutes. And we have to start here on the local scene because 1,000 slots have been allocated to sportsmen and women in the country in the YEA Elite program. Well, yesterday, a memorandum of understanding was signed between the YEA, that's the Youth Employment Agency, and the National Sports Authority in the presence of the Ghana Football Association, Ketu Kweku, for them to, pay athletes, 1,000 athletes, a monthly stipend of 500 Ghana cedis. Muftar Nabila was there and came through with this report.
The Youth Employment Agency, in conjunction with the Ghana Olympic Committee and the National Sports Authority, came out with a plan to provide a monthly stipend of 500 Ghana cedis to Ghanaian athletes due to the financial hardships caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The Chief Executive Officer of the Youth Employment Agency, Justin Kodia Frimpong, has been speaking about why they took the decision to support these athletes.
As an employment agency, we have been monitoring the effects of the COVID on several employment in the country and for that matter, the world. One avenue that has been hardly hit by this COVID-19 is our sports fraternity. We know there are several young men and women who see sports as their means of daily livelihood and also earn a living through the various sports disciplines. As an agency mandated to provide job opportunity, also to facilitate job opportunity for the youth of this country. It's our duty to support youth employment in the country. And we know the various sports disciplines are being done or being performed by the youth in the country. So anything that will provide sustainable jobs for the youth, the agency is up for it. And it's also backed by our institutional regulation. Regulation 2 also talks about the models that the agency can run. So this model forms part of our community improvement program, where we want to make sure that at least we better the lives of the young people in this country.
He also revealed that the decision on when to start payment of these athletes would be taken when the National Sports Authority, in conjunction with all the federations in the country, submit the list of athletes to the YEA.
Agreement has been signed. We are expecting the National Sports Authority to meet with the other beneficiaries for them to sit and see how they are going to collate the list for the agents. So we are relying on their time as to how soon they can furnish us with the list. Then YEA, we are ready. So once we get the list, we can take it from there. But as an agency, we are ready.
The 6 months, it still remains 6 months.
Yes, it still remains 6 months. So as in the time that we will get the list, that is when the 6 months effectively starts.
Athletes whose name will be submitted to the YEA are expected to be paid monthly for the next half a year.
Thank you for joining us. Please make sure that you get interactive. We have Facebook Joy News on TV. We also do have a Twitter handle at Joy News on TV. And you can also watch us live through our YouTube channel, Joy News TV. And as you watch us through these handles, make sure you subscribe. We're here to speak to an associate of political science, works with the University of Ghana, is a vocal person when it comes to a subject of corruption, corporate governance, the governance of our country, and you can always know who he is when I introduce him. We're speaking to Professor Ransford Yaojampo. And I'll say good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Morning. Thanks for having me.
Right. And I see that we're speaking to you within a period when we have a lot of activities ongoing, just to prepare us for the general elections in 2020, the registration that is ongoing. First, let me tease out your own observations after these number of days that we've had this, based on what you've heard, based on what you've observed about how it's going for you.
Well, generally, I was pleasantly surprised that within 1 week, the Electoral Commission said it had been able to register about 2 million Ghanaians. My instinct was, well, does it mean we are so partisan and we don't care, or does it also mean that we do not know the implications of going to converge around an area just for the purpose of registration in the midst of COVID? But I think generally, because I'm saying this because my earlier prediction was that maybe that prediction will still hold. My earlier view was that you would have a lot of people who may not be able to show up at the registration centers to register because of the fear of contracting COVID-19, and that was my fear. But we've just done 1 week, and so until we are done with the full process, maybe that prediction may hold. But I am quite pleasantly surprised that 2 million Ghanaians have been able to register so far. Well, it means people are either eager to vote or they are eager to use, to get the card as a form of identification. Of course, I went to my hometown. I spoke to quite a number of people, and you talk to them, they tell you that when we go to bank, we don't have identification. And we are waiting for national identification cards. They've registered us, and we haven't had our own. Some are also saying they've not even been registered, and so they don't have any legitimate or valid identification. So they feel that this is an opportunity for them to get some meaningful form of identification. So they've been there. But the most important thing is that for now there's been about 2 million Ghanaians who have registered, and it's something that is quite good, because my fear is that the legitimacy of the register would be in question if it is not able to capture the full complement of Ghanaians who are expected to be on it to serve as a mechanism for voting.
And we do know that the Electoral Commission says that it intends registering between 60 million and 70 million. Now, going forward, one thing that we have noticed, based on what our reporters have said, is that people have not been able to observe the social distancing, but more so the Electoral Commission has failed to implement these protocols adequately.
Well, I mean, it's something that we predicted, I mean, long ago. It's something that was to be predicted. I said that in the lead up to every election, you have the Electoral Commission telling you that everything is set. You get there and you realize that there is delay in start of polls. You get there and you realize that you have shortage of polling materials, and there are some minor hitches that have always characterized the conduct of our elections since 1992. And I keep wondering, I've always wondered, when are we going to get all these things right? And so when they said that they're going to have all the protocols observed and they're going to have all the safety PPEs and other safety devices there, I told them that, well, if experiences over the years will teach us anything, then I doubt. I don't trust what they were saying. And yes, I've been around, visited polling stations, registration centers, and I've seen that the kinds of things that they said they will be doing. Well, I mean, to be fair, certain areas do not have thermometer guns, but most of the areas that I saw had thermometer guns, which was good. But the point is, they have not been able to prevent people from converging and from doing things that will make them susceptible to contracting the disease. And I keep saying that it seems to me that in our part of the world, leadership and policymakers do not seem to understand the caliber of citizenry that they are dealing with.
And why do you say that?
I say that because we are a developing country. Okay, one feature of every developing country that qualifies it to be described as a third world country is that oftentimes that country has a population that is ignorant and uninformed. It's a feature. Okay, so unless you understand the caliber of people you are dealing with, you would only, I've heard the Electoral Commission say that, well, they've done what they are supposed to do, and it's up to Ghanaians to be, the Ghanaians are old and matured enough to be able to know how to observe.
And you have a problem with that?
And I have a problem
because
with that.
Because you think the Electoral Commission should not be saying that?
It seems that then they don't understand the caliber of people they are dealing with. The caliber of people that constitute a developing country are not well informed. One of the features of every developing country is that it has majority of its citizenry being ignorant. And so you have to do two things. You have to overly educate and sensitize them. That is number one. And number two, you have to ensure rigid enforcement of every protocol or every rule. But you cannot sit down and say, I've said this, and they know, they are adults. They should know what is right. Maybe maybe they don't understand the caliber of people you are governing. I went to my hometown. At a point in time, I had to buy some food stuff. So I went to those people, fishmongers, along the Komantse Abanzi Road. And they were selling to me. I had to cancel them. Why won't you put on your face mask and mask and all? And they made some funny remarks. Said, what do you mean? We don't have coronavirus here. Coronavirus is only a plague of big people in government. That's what they said. I had to spend time educating. The more I spoke to them, the more they saw me as ignorant. Okay, so you have an ignorant citizenry, most of whom reside in the rural hinterlands. And so if you do not appreciate them, that this is the caliber of people I'm dealing with, then look, whatever you do, you are set to fail. Okay, particularly in the midst of fighting COVID-19, and particularly as we try to ensure that we do not have a lot of infected cases.
The Coalition for Domestic Election Observers, they did indicate after a week of observing this registration exercise that it looks like the BVRs were not performing well. And then also the social distancing protocols did indicate that the citizenry were not adequately informed. Now, you have also raised this. What form of education were we anticipating?
Well, let me say this. You were anticipating a certain decentralized form of education that is not national radios and television.
Meaning what, the education should go to the ground?
The education should go to the grassroots and it should be sustained. You see, one function of the Electoral Commission that it has been abysmal in discharging is public education. In fact, their mandate, part of their mandate is also to serve as agents of political socialization and public education. So when you talk about public education, about issues of elections and registration, the political parties have a role, NCC has a role, the Electoral Commission itself has a role. I heard one or two advertisements and announcements on radio, but I think it was not sustaining enough. And then also, most of these adverts and announcements were centered in the big cities. If you go to a grassroots, you know that they know next to nothing of these things. I mean, you may have one or two wearing face masks, but they do not even appreciate or understand fully the reason why they are wearing face masks. But they wear face masks and pull it over to their chin when they want to talk, and all manner of things. So much close together, stampeding here and there, and you wonder and you ask them, and their responses tell you that, well, indeed, it's a feature of a developing country. The population itself, majority of them are not too literate, and they are not too knowledgeable about some of these things. And so you must understand them. If you understand this, then there should be some rigid enforcement of rules. No, that's number one. And number two, there should be massive and sustained sensitization and public education drive that would ensure that before people go there, they know what they're about and they know how to take care of themselves.
You're one person. We don't even have to come and interact with you physically before we know your thoughts. We just have to go onto your account on social media, on Facebook. You published it 3 days ago, and I would want to read this to you and ask you this preceding post question. To develop our democracy, we must sometimes copy, but to copy, we must only copy best practices. Now, the practice of using bad precedent to justify our current actions when we have the opportunity to do the right thing makes us a weak people. What did you mean by this?
Well, this meant something that is completely different. In fact, what I meant in that post has nothing to do with what we are talking about, unless you want us to divert into that. If you want us to...
what got me interested was the related action of getting the tenets of democracy and its practice right and copying from the best. And in relating it to this is that we have the best democracies in the world.
Oh no, that's not what I meant.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, okay.
But the way they undertake their actions leading up to how they want to practice their democracy is far better off than what we think we're doing.
No, that's what what you are saying is right, but that's not what I meant. Well, I wanted to say that it was just an insinuation. I just wanted to say that I had heard people saying that Professor Mills asked the then Auditor General, Edward Dia Ajiman, to go on leave, and which I thought then was wrong. And then I had heard some people saying that if the current Auditor General has been asked to go on leave, there's been a precedent. And my argument has been that we must always copy from the best practices, not bogus practices. We have the penchant to look for bad, bogus practices that happened in the past. We are so swift and quick to go exhume those practices and to use them now to justify what we want to do wrong today. I think it is disingenuous, and it does not help us move on and progress as a developing country. And so I say, if we want to copy, let's only copy the best practices.
Now, back to our register. As we finalize this discussion on the register, there's a key aspect of actions that have been taken by the Electoral Commission, which seem to have posed a certain distrust between it and the main opposition party, the NDC. The NDC convened a news conference. They raised a litany of issues they have with the current register. They said people were still being prevented from areas they believed were still their dominant areas along the border posts just because they were maybe bused to registration centers and not allowed, tapped Togolese and even tapped foreigners. This had been an issue even before the start of the registration exercise. What's your own thoughts about?
No, but the registration is supposed to be meant for Ghanaians.
Definitely.
Okay, so if they are non-Ghanaians, why should anybody entertain non-Ghanaians to register? If they are truly Togolese, then they have no business registering.
What if they are not?
But no, so if they are not, so then there should be a way of ensuring that the people are not Togolese. It is not, the EC cannot even immediately decide that you are a Ghanaian or you are not. It goes through a certain settlement adjudicative processes.
Yes, we do know
so
that. Yes.
The point is that you cannot just look on somebody's forehead and just say that you are not a Ghanaian or you are a Ghanaian. There are certain processes. And so the practice of just turning people away just on the face of their on their looks and on the face of whatever you have against them shouldn't be so much tolerated. I think there are processes that one will have to go through to determine or to decide whether they are Togolese or they are not. And more importantly, I'm thinking the borders have been closed now, and so nobody should be able to move from another country to our borders, our country, to come and register. And so, well, if there are legitimate concerns that they have raised, I think the EC must interrogate and look into it. Otherwise, you cannot have an EC that will continuously be criticized, or an EC that is always being quarreled with by the main opposition party. It's not too good. Let there be some peace so that the EC can have some peace of mind to go about its duty. So it must look into it, into this matter.
Well, not too long ago, the main opposition party itself adored their running mates. So the flag bearer of the party has adored the first woman running mate for their party. Well, many observers think this is historic. That even though it's not the first time we've had a political party in Ghana nominating a female running mate. What's your own thought on this?
Well, it's historic because Ghana's Fourth Republic has been governed essentially by two main parties, NDC and MPP, and this is the first time you having one of the main parties appointing a female running mate. It's historic because you have the first woman, female vice chancellor of a public university being asked to go partner Professor John Mahama. And it's also historic because if you look at the people who were the key contenders, they were all male. She was the only female, and when we're talking about, when we're doing the analysis and talking about who is likely to be selected, nobody gave her a dog chance. I know only one politician in the MPP who told me that it is going to be an Anopo Kwadman. That's way about a year ago or so. And but subsequently in the discussion, she never featured. And all of a sudden, she's the one who has been selected. I think it is something historic.
What do you think about how she has been received, either on social media, by mainstream observers, or even some connoisseurs like you, professors of political science, so to speak?
Well, generally, level-headed people have received her well. Of course, her own party people will support her, but it is also to be expected that those who belong to the ruling party have also tried to throw some mud, at her and all that. It is to be expected. My disappointment, however, is that there are certain personalities within the ruling party that, in my view, have achieved the level of being described as statesmen. And so I do not expect them to make the kind of comments about her that the full soldiers are making. She is not an angel. She may have her pluses, but she may also equally have her minuses. And so fair analysis should just look not at her womanhood, but should look at her track record and what she has done.
Is that what you think they're doing? Isn't it more a comparison? Her juxtaposing her abilities with what Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who has been vice presidential candidate for the MPP since 2008?
No, my argument has been, you see, that is an irrational approach. You see,
why not?
When the MPP at a point in time was looking for a general secretary, and they got what's the name?
Dr. Bawumia.
No, I'm talking about MPP General Secretary. They got Sir John of pleasant memory. One of the things that they were saying was that we want somebody who will be able to match Asedu Nketia. I said that is irrational.
Why not?
You must always look for somebody who will be able to match development, somebody who will be able to match the tangible bread and butter issues that affect Ghanaians. And so if you're looking for a running mate, and she happens to be an economist, so be it. Don't forget, Jerry Rawlings never had an economist running mate. J. Kufuor never had an economist running mate. Atta Mills never had an economist running mate. So the phenomenon of having an economist who is a running mate is new. Okay, what should be of interest to all of us? I have a lot of respect for Dr. Bawumia, and when he speaks, you can appreciate that he understands the economic issues. I've always argued that he's the only person who is able to explain things better to my understanding. The rest, when they talk, you don't know what they are talking about. You understand? So I have a lot of respect for him. He's an economist par excellence. But if you are looking for a running mate for another political party, you do not necessarily have to say that I'm looking for somebody who will be able to match Dr. Bawumia. If you do that, you miss the point. It's irrational. You should look for somebody who you will say, as for this person, he or she understands the bread and butter issues confronting Ghanaians, and he or she has what it takes to help in translating policies into concrete developmental outcomes reflected in the lives of the ordinary people.
Is that why you wrote just a day ago that the MPP must not fall for the trap of committing political suicide by saying nasty things that may be interpreted as an attack on women? It may haunt them later. A critique of her selection must be based only on issues.
Well, precisely. It's a trap. I mean, somebody has selected his running mate. She's a woman.
Do you think they've already started falling for that trap?
Well, I've heard, at least on social media, and there was one high-ranking one, but of course, unfortunately, the person came to explain that I think he was misquoted or something. But I've heard quite a number of people trying to run her down by making comments that, in my view, can be interpreted to mean an attack on womanhood. If you do that, and women decide to form a constituency to protect their own, mind you that they account for over 52% of our population. And so if they decide to vote for their own, then you would have shot yourself.
But you also do understand those 52% of women, voter population age, would all vote on party lines.
In fact, so in my subsequent analysis, I've said that even though a lot of women are hailing her appointment, generally, women do not vote for their own because of partisan, party political reasons. Unfortunately, women in our part of the world, they don't form one constituency. You see, once they form a constituency, they will say, because she is coming from us, we vote for her. But because of partisan reasons, they are divided. So you will hear a lot of women saying that, well, she's an accomplished scholar, she can do it, but because she's not in my party, I can't vote for her. And so at the end of the day, she would have a lot of work to do if she really wants to court the support of women.
Let me ask you this. What do you think she brings to the table? It's been a big argument over the last 48 hours.
You see, the point is this. If you look at her pedigree, she brings a lot to the table. But I don't want to look at that. What I'm looking at, and in fact, I'm so much expectant, is how she sounds on her first press conference. Okay. At this stage, you see, there are so many people who have the pedigree, there are so many people who have the academic qualifications and all those things, they have achieved a lot. But when you say they should go serve people, they do not have what it takes to serve. And so, at this stage, whether she has what it takes to serve or not depends on what she says during her first press conference. Remember, Barack Obama was nobody. It took the kinds of things he said at their party's Congress for him to be catapulted into the presidency of America. So my point is that if she, let's wait. I'm sure she's going to hold a press conference. Let us see whether she would demonstrate depth. Let us wait to see whether she will demonstrate content. Let us see whether she will demonstrate a firm grasp of the issues, the bread and butter issues that are of utmost concern to Ghanaians. And let us see whether she would be able to articulate a certain policy direction that she would be able to help John Mahama to implement to ensure that people are developed. And when I say people become developed, I'm talking about people's physical quality of life improving. Let us see whether she will be able to articulate those things. If she's able to listen to articulate those things in a manner that is convincing, then people will say, then she's bringing something to the table. I've always said that you have so many scholars, when they talk about national issues, they don't understand or they don't have the grasp. Okay, there are people that you may respect. They have all the achievement. But when you begin to talk about them on matters relating to national politics and what they think about it, you know that the person may be a scholar in her chosen field or his chosen field, but on national issues that borders on ordinary people, they may not have the grasp and all that. So let us see whether she has a grasp. And so for me, her first press conference will be crucial. It
will be very indicative of how you will see the direction as to how she can go.
Yes.
There is a concern that has been expressed. I've seen it widely on some platforms on social media too, that John Dramani Mahama may have been late in selecting a running mate or even get his campaign going. Even though coronavirus aside, he's in opposition, so ideally.
All the political parties were late. The last election, they were all late in the release of their manifestos. It's a creeping phenomenon. being less timious in releasing of certain important documents and also outdooring certain important things that people would have to be aware to be able to make their mind in determining who they must support. The point is this. The woman that you have outdoored is relatively not a party person. I'm told he's barely 7 years in the NDC as a party. And so for me, if her nomination had come earlier, okay, it would have served the purpose. She would be able to market herself among the core support base and among all other Ghanaians. She will be known. I mean, you are going to contest with somebody like Baumia, who is now known and all that. And so if she had come a bit earlier, it would have been fine. But, well, better late than never.
Ultimately, how would you want or do you see the election panning out? Looking at the state of COVID, its influence on the state of life, we having a register that is coming at this time where it is coming, and how we hope to see the year out.
Well, I think there are still so many uncertainties. Given the rate at which our COVID infection is going, I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow we are told that we should suspend the registration. I wouldn't also be surprised if we are told that because of some reasons, let us rethink whether we want to hold elections or not. Because, you see, key policy makers, key people of influence are now all being infected. And so I want to believe that now that they are recovering, with the experience that they've had, they will be able to proffer certain proactive advice that would make all of us cautious. You understand? And so there are so many uncertainties. Let us wait for a while. Let's give ourselves about 1 more month to see what happens, because now it is becoming scary. I thought we had won the battle over COVID, but it seems to me that the kinds of things that are going on, we are going up day by day. Yesterday alone, I read that now we have about 400 cases on daily basis. We are recording 400 people. And
averagely,
on the average, 400 people a day. And I think, where are we heading towards? Are we heading towards Italy, or do we have the structures, the health facilities to be able to contain some of these things? I don't think we do.
That's a concern.
And so the earlier we act, the better for us.
Well, thank you very much. Professor Ransford Yaw-Gyampo. And what's your address in Salt Point again?
Oh, 831 Prabio, PAB Answer Street.
Thank you very much. We've been speaking to Professor Ransford Yaw-Gyampo. Make sure you check out his account on Facebook. Just in case you haven't heard or watched from him in a while, daily, check there. But he is an associate professor of political science, has been teaching this for over a decade and a half, has great stint in teaching, not only local, but has had great sabbaticals also abroad. But that's what we bring you right here on the AM show. Well, we're taking a break. When we come back, we'll have more for you. And you can get all these interactions, especially this one with Professor Ransford Yaw-Gyampo on YouTube. Joy News TV is always a channel there, and then also Joy News on TV is on Facebook, and same goes to the same name for a handle on Twitter. As you do that, we have to put matters into perspective. We do know that we've recorded a number of cases, 6 of them officially at the Accra Girls Senior High School. But it's also put matters into perspective about how there are concerns on the side of teachers, parents, and the general public about how possibly we can have coronavirus infecting students across senior high schools. Well, we do know it's only the 3rd years and those on the go track that have resumed schooling. But since then, the conversation has moved forward. We had a deputy ranking member on Parliament's Education Committee, and Dr. Clement Apak had advocated in a news interaction with the press corps in Parliament that this should indicate that the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service should close down schools. Is that the way to go? Well, let's hear from Dr. Clement Apak. When we come back, we'll get a perspective from at least those who teach and also a think tank doing research in the area of education.
Of COVID-19, many educationists, specialists, stakeholders had all suggested that it was best to close down schools. That was done. But later on, government decided to reopen the schools. When that decision was made, there was a lot of opposition. Now we know that various campuses have recorded infections of COVID-19. The Accra Girls example is but one. The reason why many of you in the media and Ghanaians are not fully apprised about what is going on is because of the restrictions that the ministry through GS has placed. As we know, even parents are not allowed to have access to the awards. Government has said that the reason for the reopening of schools was to prepare the students to take their final exams. Given that at the time the schools were reopened, the case count was only about 12,000. And today we are speaking about a case count in excess of 20,000. We believe, parents believe, the teacher unions believe that the motive for which schools were reopened cannot be achieved. Like other countries, which reopened schools and as a result of infections in those schools had to close them down. There's no reason why we can't do that. France did it, Israel did it, Germany did it. Once we now know that the pandemic is present on our campuses, why are we keeping the students there? If cabinet can be suspended 2 weeks in a row because there is a suspicion that the virus is present among higher government officials, so why are we saying that the students should be in school when their colleagues have tested positive? Don't they also deserve the same attention that high government officials are getting? We know that the virus is present on campuses. I think that the best thing would be to test them, which we had requested earlier on, and then let them go home. Because, as I said, the conditions are not conducive. The anxiety, the fear, the emotional torture of being on campus and not knowing what is going on, whether you even have the virus or not. Everyone is being suspicious of the other person. And remember that even the PPEs are not even readily available.
We'll speak to a researcher and also a teacher, a think tank, a lecturer. Peter Pate Anti is with the Institute for Education Studies. Now, good morning to you, Peter. You may have also observed some of these comments coming through, but before then, we had a number of the cases being recorded, commentary by the Ghana Education Service, the Ghana Health Service itself, the National COVID-19 Management Team on the perspectives. What's your own observation so far about all that has transpired over the last couple of days related to senior high school education and infections on COVID-19?
Thank you very much. And good morning to your viewers. Anyone who has been a follower of this COVID in our schools, globally, would note that anytime that you open schools, you are likely to have infections coming up in the various school communities. And that is why the last conversation that we had, we made a point that as for the recording of cases in our campuses, that will happen. So we were not oblivious of that fact. I think you even said that I'm like a pastor who want to prophesy or who knows that obviously something's going to happen. And we knew that because we were coming from a realist approach. We knew that anytime you put a lot of people together and the professionals have told us that if you don't move, the virus doesn't move. So you are moving people across the length and breadth of the country. Definitely somebody within the circle of a school might contract it, especially in situations whereby you had these students also coming in and going out where they were not able to have accommodation on campuses. So it was clear that definitely there will be, we will record some of these things on campuses. And that have not been in doubt in our mind. For our team, we know that that was going to happen. What we then said was that whether we will make students stay on campus or we will ask students to go home would depend on the management of the crisis as they come up on campuses. And you have seen the calls from parents, the calls from the teacher unions, and I understand their call, because if you have such a situation coming up and you are not able to manage it like they couldn't manage it in Accra Girls, like it has happened at KN University Senior High School, then you will not be able to get the trust from the public, the trust from the relevant stakeholders that you are on top of the issue and you'll be able to keep the students safe and sound on campus. And then, therefore, these calls will come up. So our focus from day one has been that how do you manage these cases as and when they come out on campuses so that you will be able to gain the trust of the public and that of the students and that of the teachers in the event that these things come. And when it does, then you have the support of everybody that, look, we had this happening here, that happening here. But the school authorities, the Ghana Education Service, the Ministry of Education quickly stepped in and they did 1, 2, 3. And because of that, the issue was contained. So that is what has caused all this uproar and then the chance for schools to be closed. If not for that, I don't think that we would be having this kind of conversation at this time.
Well,
we have, okay.
Well, it's good that you're putting all these matters into perspective, but I have been thinking, we've all been following the figures. The mortalities have been very well managed. They are low. Of course, the infections may be increasing, but all this noise that is happening and the concerns that are being expressed, are they not being overestimated?
I wouldn't say that. You know, in times like this, there are a lot of emotions at play. So I wouldn't say that the noise, or not noise in say, but the calls from the other stakeholders, the minority in parliament, the teacher unions, they are not an overestimation of the situation. It's just a reflection of the level of fear among the public and across the length and breadth of the country. So that level of fear is there, and I wouldn't say that it's an overestimation of what is there. Because you see, we have, as you said, we have recorded a larger number of people dying. I think we moved from somewhere around 27 thereabouts. Now we are hitting almost 125 or 130. The cases have even gone beyond 20,000. So the fear is there. The fear is there. People are not sure what is really going to happen in our schools. But that is where your management and your communication skills come in. Because if you have an issue at Accra Girls and parents have not been informed, or parents were informed maybe lately, the public were not giving advance notice, and they mass up at the school, and students are giving the go ahead to demonstrate, chanting, shouting, and doing all that. If you have a situation at UST and students are demonstrating, shouting, chanting, and these are captured on television, one, you would note that there's total loss of control on campuses. Two, you will ask yourself, where are the teachers? Where are the relevant authorities in these schools? Three, you will ask yourself, why these people have been able to congregate and they are shouting? Are we not escalating? Are we not going to have an escalation of the problem on campus? So these events, and that's why I said from day one that the management of the crisis on campus will determine whether the students will continue to stay or they will be asked to go home. And so far, the two schools that have had some of the most worst crisis, let me put it that way, have not been able, the authorities in the schools have not been able to manage it well. And that is why the core have escalated to this level. We have been collecting data. I have data from almost 80 districts. And what I was thinking, associations like the NAGATs, the NATs, CCT, and those calling for the closure, what I was thinking they would do was to come out with, we have already, we know that there have been some issues with them. We have recorded cases in 2, 3, 4, 5 schools. But then if you are calling for a closure of schools, then you would be speaking to data. What did the GES promise? What did the ministry promise? What were they able to offer? How are these schools, or how are these students having their how do you call it? Themselves being managed on campus. These are things that you have to assess. And before we will come out to say that the school should be closed, we have to be sure with the data. I mean, we have to be sure with the data and the kind of information that we have. So as I said, we have collected data from almost 80 districts across 13 regions. And it's interesting to know that some of the responses or challenges that the teachers are mentioning from the schools seems to suggest that there is a lot of fear among students. There's a lot of fear among students. And some of the fear has transcended to the level that they do not even want to discuss their possible ill health with their colleagues or the teachers for the fear that they will be isolated, or they would be asked to be isolated, or they'll be asked to go through the test and all that. So because of that, the normal conversation between the students and the teachers have gone down. That is what some of the data that we are having seems to suggest. And some of them are also saying that the issue of social distancing in the classrooms is okay, but when they go to the dormitory, it is not that okay. Some of them are complaining about accommodation. Some of them are complaining about students not wearing their masks. Some of them were saying that they do not have the thermometer gun. Some of them were saying that they do not have the requisite hand sanitizers. Somebody says students hiding their illness with the fear of suspicion. They are not opening up to teachers like it used to be. I've said that one. Then some also said that staff common room is full. We need to run a shift because this virus is deadly. People are not wearing face masks they brought from their home. No Veronica buckets stand. We have not encountered any problem. So these are information that are coming. Now, the long and short of all this is that it seems that the local management, and I say local management, I'm talking about the management of the cases on campuses, have not been that of what we expected, because we were thinking that the counseling issue of maybe continuing psyching the students and telling them that everything will be under control are not going on. The teachers themselves are afraid of contracting the disease. The students are not doing what they are supposed to do in terms of wearing the nose masks and all those. And all that boils down to how the various authorities in our schools are managing the situation.
Okay, let me break into that, Peter Patianti, and get onto the lines and speak to Cassandra Chum Ampofo. She is head of public relations at Ghana Education Service. Now, as you speak for the service, the concerns that have been raised by a number of the schools would also mean that these are the concerns not only gathered by IFEST, but also have come to the perspective or the attention of the parents. Have these concerns been made to you as a service, the Ghana Education Service? Cassandra, are you on the line?
Hello, Roland. I had a break. Kindly.
No problem. So there have been a number of concerns that have been raised. The teachers seem to be afraid. On the perspective of the parents, they are having this trepidation. And then the students also are worried because social distancing, etc., are not being maintained as a way of the protocols observance on campus. Have these concerns come to your attention as a service, the Ghana Education Service?
Okay, well, if I can hear you, I think you're asking about social distancing issues, right, on campus.
Oh, yes, the observance of the protocols, whether the non-observance have come to your attention.
Good morning. Yes, we have realized that some of the students on campus are not really observing the social distancing protocol very well. And that is why we all have to work as a team. We have COVID teams, apart from that, the teachers, we are all to work together to ensure that the social distance, particularly, is observed very well by the students, teachers, and everybody, including non-teaching staff on campus.
So what does it mean? It means it is going to continue this way, or you're doing something about it?
Yes, it means that we have to intensify our education as they are on campus and let them know that apart from washing your hands, using the sanitizer, wearing your mask, it is also important, in fact, very important, to distance yourself from your friends, at least whilst on campus, because of the way this whole thing is going about. So it means that we have to intensify our education, which we have started. We have engaged the heads as well again to do that. That yes, we have told them, the students themselves are aware that they need to. But you know, as usual of students, sometimes you get some of them getting closer and closer. And so we have to keep on educating them and making them aware the need to do that part, the social distancing as well.
The management of the schools, have they brought to your attention concerns they have about their inability to provide counseling services and then the needed health attention for the students?
No, they have not. They have not. But I will be very surprised because how will they not be able to provide counseling services to the students? Because counseling is done one-on-one basis. Sometimes, if you want to do two, depending on the subject that you are treating or the whatever the sensitivity of the issue. And so, even if we are dealing with even COVID-19, and you want to even put them in twos or threes, you can do that, space them out while the next group also comes, and then it moves on and on. And so we have counselors in the schools as well. We have counselors at the district offices. And so we have counselors in our service. And so I'll be surprised. We have not received that it means anyway.
There's a concern that the Ghana Education Service and then even the Ministry of Education, you've not been forthright with information to the public and the parents on these related matters.
Roland, let me make reference to what happened at Accra Girls. You know, the parents were informed. Yes, it was just the parents of the larger group that within that period, within a day or two, they were not in. So that's how come we found some of them going to the school because they actually did not know what was happening. And you know, Roland, I think we spoke about this, of what happened. But let me say that going forward, we have learned that instead of getting the students or the parents of such students aware, the larger parents must also be made aware of what has happened, even if it's a single case, and tell them how we are managing them, just to keep them assured, and for them to hear, and then the agitations and all of that. That is, it's affected because as a parent, if you hear something like that, you definitely be agitated, you're frustrated, you want to know what's happening. And so if the information is not going forth, some of these things are expected. But moving forward, instead of dealing with the smaller parent or the parent of that student, you have to deal with the larger parent as well. To get them all informed.
Okay, you mean that's what you'll be doing next, or you've been doing it?
You know, we have this issue at Accra Girls, and we don't want that to happen again, where parents with them move on.
Well, very good. So that said, how many schools have recorded COVID-19 so far?
We have 3. We have 3 schools as of now.
Which schools, please?
We have one in Pansopim, and we have one Konongo Wesley High, and then Accra Girls High School.
Okay, in Pansopim, Konongo Girls, Accra.
Konongo, Wesley High.
Konongo Wesley High School.
Yes, Roland.
Okay. Has it come to your attention that Bechem Presec also has some suspected cases?
Well, I have not heard this morning, so I will have to find out immediately to end this conversation.
Okay. As a service, are you going to heed to the pressure that is coming from all and sundry? Even the minority raising an issue in a press conference that because of these concerns and the cases that are rising, perhaps we should put on hold the school term. We should call it off. Let the children go back home.
Well, yes, that's their concern. I know management would welcome, or probably we welcome any conversation around the safety of the students, safety of teachers. But let me also say that, yes, the number of students and teachers that we have on campus, over 300,000 plus, 721 plus junior high school. We have issues in the system. We would resolve them and then we move on. We are dealing with a collaboration with the Ghana Health Service, and they would also advise that maybe per the nature of the situation or what is happening in our school, it is very important that DES would have to close on school, and that will come from our ministry. And so for now, we believe that, yes, unfortunately, we have recorded a couple of incidents in our schools. We are dealing with them. The girls at Accra High who have been sent to our East Center by the grace of God are doing well. The teacher and the families are doing well. We hope the thing that we are dealing with the issues, and once we are just a few of them by the grace of God, we have to go on with whatever is happening until the health experts advise that no, we have to close down the school. You know, we're not Ghana Education Service, we are not health experts. And so whatever decision that we take, it has to be, for now, be a collaborative between GS and Ghana Health Service. And so once they say we should go on, we will go on and ensure that whatever we have been asked to do, we are doing them with all teachers and teaching staff coming on board to help us achieve that objective.
Hey, Cassandra Chumafofo, it's not for nothing you're one of the top 10 PR experts as far as the women's sphere is concerned in Ghana. But let me ask you two more questions before you run away. Before you run away, just two more. Kenya, Nigeria, they're scrapping the school year. Even Nigeria, no WASI. What is Ghana doing?
Well, each country has its own peculiar case. I am sure they cancelled WASI because of what their experts have also advised. And here in Ghana, of course, this is not the first time Ghana is writing what some of us wrote WASI. There came a time that we were writing our Ghana exams. Now, what is happening, health experts say that we can go on with our Ghana exams. And so YS is also making preparations, timetable is out, and we are going to ensure that the exam is done or is conducted properly and smoothly, and they will not have any unforeseen cases. So we are working at it, and that we are also doing together with YS.
Okay. So because you are not experts, you can't determine when the schools will be closed down or whether you close the schools down?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely, Roland. We need to take that advice.
All right.
For now, unfortunately, we have incidents in our schools.
All right.
And we are dealing with them. They've all been sent to the treatment centers.
Okay.
By the grace of God, they are responding to treatment. The larger group are fine. We have to keep on educating them, keep on, sensitizing them of the need to observe the protocols. And that's exactly what we are doing in the school. And so we think that we can move on. There's no need for the schools to shut down until our health experts tell us to do so.
It looks like the focus is on only senior high school. Junior high schools, how many schools have recorded cases so far?
Well, none has come to our attention, Roland.
All right. Thank you, Cassandra Chum Ampofo. And Cassandra Chum Ampofo is the head of public relations, the Ghana Education Service, and helping us put matters into perspective this morning. Well, we'll call on you anytime we have some updates and we'll want some better clarification. Well, we told you that we'll get a perspective on how the ongoing voter registration exercise is related. And before we do that, Peter, what have you taken from the conversation with Cassandra?
Yeah, I appreciate her frankness with the issue. I think that the Ghana Education Service and Ministry of Education would know when they will close the schools. But what maybe they want to do is to do a comprehensive assessment of what is happening on the ground and whether to go ahead with, because I don't think they will roll out this the reopening without a threshold as to when, if issues escalate, when they would take action or not. So it is important that they take advice from the health professionals, but I know in their closets they would also have an idea of when a possible closure of a school would happen. What I also have to say is that you can, as you rightly asked, you can see that apart from 1 or 2 senior high schools, or maybe let's say 10 senior high schools that we might have issues with, the universities are still operating without any call for closure. And then the basic schools are also. So that is why we would want everybody to have a holistic assessment of what is happening on the ground, identify what we are not doing right, and improve on what we are supposed to do. In that, we would want the managers of the schools, and when I mean the senior high schools, their handling of this issue have been very, very abysmal. I would wish that every headmaster takes this as his or her responsibility and undertake innovative measures to keep the children safe. So far as the Ghana Education Service and Ministry of Education have not asked for a closure of the schools, I think that is the little that they can do to help our kids and the parents of these kids. So it's important that some of the things that they can do now is to basically have a small talk with the kids, the students every morning. If you're a teacher, you go to the class, assure them, because that psychological thing is real and it is going to impact on their exams, but we need to deal with it. So if you're a teacher, you're going to a class, you have to talk to them, assure them that everything is going to be well, everything is going to be under control. If you are a school authority and you're not having the relevant PPEs, kindly voice it out, write, inform, call, and when you are not having response, put it in the public. These are things that you should be able to do, irrespective of whatever punishment that will come. But you want to protect the health of your students. Apart from that, the teachers should not be, I don't think the teachers should be the ones now leading the call for a closure, because they were part of the whole process of the reopening. I think what they can do is to also do their own independent assessment and verification and come out with concrete facts about what is happening on the ground. And then based on that, they take a position. Because sometimes if you allow our emotions to overtake the scientific research that we are supposed to do, we might want to act haphazardly. But at the end of the day, we might see that whatever we did was not the right thing upon hindsight. So we would wish that they adhere to whatever plans that they have with the Ghana Education Service, hold them to that, and ensure that their members are safe, the students are safe, and everybody is safe. But for a call to close down the schools, we at IFES would wish that there's a comprehensive assessment of the issue, and then a decision will be made.
Thank you very much. Peter Ante with the Institute for Education Studies, helping us with our discussion as well. And also thank you, Cassandra Chumampofu, Head of Public Relations, Ghana Education Service. But look, let's move on to the voter registration exercise. And we'll get the latest from our correspondent. Maxwell Agbagba is in one of those centers right here in the capital. And Maxwell, where are you? I can see that there are people just all behind you. What have you noticed so far since you went there?
Yeah, Roland, I'm here at the IAM Registration Center. That's what the people call it, the IAM Registration Center. All is smooth here. Majority of the people I've seen here are wearing their mask. The only problem, or what I would call a challenge here, is how they are spaced out. Many of them are sitting very close, but for the mask, it is prominently, featured here. Many of the people here are wearing their masks. The process is going on smoothly here. Let's speak to the registration officer. Let's find out from him how they are implementing the EC's queue management system here, and how is that system also helping them reduce overcrowding, reduce the crowd here at this particular registration center. Let's get closer. Sir, you're welcome to join us. Uncle. Welcome to join us, sir.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yeah, what's your name?
I'm Daniel Niyati.
Okay.
Daniel Niyati.
Okay. I'm sure you're one of the registration officers here.
Yes, please.
Okay. Tell me, how is the process going so far?
By the God's grace, we are moving on smoothly. With the help of the Almighty God. Yeah.
Okay. How are you implementing the EC's queue management system here?
The queue management system there. Now, as you can see, we are team B from the Electoral Commission, assisting the actual team, the main team, because of the population over here.
So this center. No, this center is for the aged and then vulnerable persons?
Yes, and the lactating mothers here, and the pregnant women too. Yeah.
Okay. So you do not use the queue management system here, you use it on the other side?
Yes, please. Yeah.
But so far, are you impressed with how the persons here, the people here, the applicants here are wearing their mask and how they are spaced out?
Yes, please. We have been encouraging them to wear their face nose mask. At any point in time. Yeah.
At some of the registration centers we visited sometime last week, the registration officers were quite frustrated that the applicants were not respecting the protocols. Have you had cause to worry about the adherence to the protocol?
What we are facing here right now is the social distance, but as you can see, everybody is in the nose mask. Apart from that one, we have no problem. Hand washing is going on. The sanitizing too is also going on very smoothly. Yeah.
Thank you very much for speaking to us.
You're welcome.
Okay. So you just had a registration officer at this particular center, which is the place where the aged, lactating mothers and then vulnerable persons can actually come and then to do their registration. It's really quick, but I'll take you to the main place, the main center, the main registration center. Let's see what is happening there. You heard him corroborate the point that I made earlier, that for the masks, yes, a lot of them are wearing their masks. Quite impressive, better than what we saw sometime last week. The only issue here is how the persons here are sitting very close, although they are wearing their masks. There's a police officer here, I'm sure, who's ensuring that. So you can see how the crowd is actually gathered. You can see how they are not spaced out, but a lot of them are wearing their masks, with just quite a few of them not wearing theirs. I see about 4 people not wearing their mask, sitting very close. Yeah. Let's speak to the registration officer here. Let's find out how the process is going. Sir, you're welcome to join us.
Hello.
What's your name?
Yeah, my name is Mbiba Albert.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm the arrow for Korowanko.
How is the process going here?
Oh, it's going successfully. Well, I think the number is increasing every day, but our number is increased. But we are also trying, and we are also registering the number. The total number of registration is going up.
Okay. I'm quite impressed that majority of the people here are wearing their masks, but don't you think they are sitting too close?
Yeah. We tell them to observe the social distancing, but it's like when they scatter, then some people they will come. At the end of the day, they will not be able to capture them, to register them. They will ask them to go. And when the day break, they have to come. But when you come and ask them to be on the queue, most of them is like they are not following the instruction. So we try to let the security monitor them. So now I can see the number is reducing small. So we are observing the social distancing now.
The electoral commissioner told us that, electoral commission chairperson told us that you're implementing a queue management system to reduce overcrowding. Have you rolled that out here? Have you given out sheets to persons?
Yes, we did that.
Okay. So what exactly did you do here? What was the process like?
The process like we give them the queue numbers to come. If you come and you are not able to register, then we'll give you the queue number. Then when the day break, you come on time. We'll tell you to come on time. When you come on time, then we'll ask them, the security man will ask them to be on the queue so that they will observe the social distancing. I think that is what we are doing here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you too.
So you just heard from the registration officer here talking about how the process is going here at the IAM registration center. Let's speak to this one. Let's find out from her what she makes of the process. Hello, good morning.
Morning.
How you doing?
My yoga.
Okay. I know what you're going. How are you going? Tani on a process at 10
Bene ala was small. I got electoral commission and how was sent Bemi, no Bemi, no one social distance Bemi.
Both issue. In a SMP, a beer.
You feel can send Jasia Keba.
Okay, so the concern she's raising is that they do not have chairs to sit on here, and I've seen quite a number of people sitting on chairs. So I was saying that there are a lot of chairs here, and the applicants here are saying they brought their own chairs. That is what they are saying here. But I'm not
Semba ni no any social distance them. But no cash no work. She say no te no balebie apenebo because me komamba can be a kajebeke 8. Ni boba o ko semba to lie. No she no ya one no ba 6 o'clock. Amepene onu shishi e wa ko semba to lie.
No shishi chomo mi shishi like
she fenje ake Belni emeye e wo ko ba to lai ko sen sa no kan sen no wo ni ko to lai won amoku e sa ni ko kesen ba mamohie na ehwetu mu atwa to afu ane sa no twa me na meba onu shishi ko ani ma bata sen no ni o me awon oni lebi ameba mani me kan bia na me wo amepene onu shishi no ni ke bia ba shi me ko ma me no shishi ko te we ma ajabu.
She's trying to explain to me the challenge with the seating arrangements here. Earlier we saw some disagreements between some of the applicants here. She's talking about how they bring their chairs from their various homes and then put it here. When they leave, they come back in the morning, and there's some kind of disagreements. I'm not getting it too clear what she's trying to explain to me, but basically it's about the disagreement over chairs and how some of them sleep here just so they can make it, they can make it very early to register. Let me speak to Chief. You're welcome to join us.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. What's your name?
I'm Honorable Peter Kwe, the Assembly Member for this electoral era.
Oh, fantastic. Let me once again say that I'm impressed by how they are wearing their mask. Majority of them, I should say. But social distancing is not working here.
It's very true. Every morning, I normally come around to arrange the queue very well. But the reason why the social distancing is not taking place here is that, you see, the previous registration that we've had so far in the whole constituency and the electoral area as well, normally the registration takes place around all the polling centers. But this one is based on cluster basis, like 6 electoral areas at the same time. But if we have this machine on all the various electoral areas, like we will not get these people all here. And then also, a lot of education didn't go on well. So most of them thought, as they are coming here, they will not come to the electoral area again, or they will not come to the constituency again. So all the people within the electoral area, they've trooped in here. So that is what has caused all this problem. But if the machine were to take place, or the registration should have taken place in all the polling centers that we have in the constituency, I think we will not have this problem. Yeah, that is why. But all the same, I always ensure that they are all wearing nose masks. I always ensure that they are wearing nose masks.
I was at a press conference organized by the NDC yesterday, and they mentioned this issue. They raised concerns about public education, especially, and you are also raising that issue. Have you tried educating them, letting them know that, I mean, the team would come to their various electoral areas, so they shouldn't rush? Have you tried doing that?
Yeah, I've tried to educate them on that. But initially, the Electoral Commission within our constituency, yeah, they gave us a chart for this cluster registration. But during the week, we made an announcement to all the people in the community. But the second day, they changed the registration chart again. So quickly, we have to come back and enter them. So the initial information that we gave them, they realized.
But let's put all these issues into a bigger context. And so for the next 5 minutes, we want to interact with Mr. Michael Buedu, and he is Director of Training for the Electoral Commission, because you also do know that all these issues will be addressed by them. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Michael Buedu.
Thank you.
Great. And we've seen that even at Ododiodio, social distancing is now being observed, and all the related matters. What did you do within the last few days to make sure even some of these hotspots, so to speak, you are able to put things under control?
Okay, thank you very much. We kept speaking with our people. We informed them of the need to respect these protocols. And the police also have been upheld recently. And I think the public is gradually understanding the realities on the ground, and they are being supported, because largely it depended on the applicant or the public. And so we make the conducive, the atmosphere conducive, and they have to support by just obeying. And I think we need to congratulate the public. I think they are now responding, and we also have to congratulate the police and our officials that are also monitoring this process and ensuring that the right things are done.
Yesterday, the opposition NDC raised a number of issues. For example, they are saying that in their strongholds, Northern Ghana, Volta region, there are necessary challenges to a number of the applicants.
Challenge is part of the electoral process. I mean, challenging one's application for registration as a voter is allowed. If you say it's unnecessary, I really don't know, but what is meant to say that. But if one thinks an applicant is not qualified, can go ahead and challenge. Thankfully, it doesn't end there. There is a committee to adjudicate these cases, and luckily, the political parties have representation on the committee. And so in this respect, the NDC will be represented on that committee, and the decision of the committee on those challenge cases will be carried through by the EC.
But at the end of the day, we know that we're targeting a number of people to be on the register. We're told that it's now 50 million. Why is that? When we know that in 2016, we had over 50 million people on the register.
Yes. This goes to buttress the argument that we made earlier on, that the register has a lot of names that are not supposed to be there. And so even though 2016, you said we had around the same figure, the understanding is that a good number of them are not supposed to be there. So in projecting for this one, we took into consideration the actual number that's supposed to be there. And of course, over the years, lots more people, since 2016, up to now, a lot of people have also become of age to register to vote. And so these are mere projections. Even though we have prepared materials and forms to take care of even up to 20 million, but the projection is the 15. And should we go beyond, we are ready because we have the materials for all that.
How closely are you monitoring the distribution of the cards for the registration from the NIA so that those who would come to the centers have all the adequate cards?
Well, monitoring NIA card. Well, we know they are still distributing the cards, and we, per the returns that we are receiving, the turnout, it still speaks to the fact that a lot more people have access to the NIA, because the figure speaks for itself. So I'm sure the distribution is quite satisfactory. Most people are getting their cards. That's how come those who have registered so far, over 60% did that with NIA card.
But at the end of the day, we need to have everybody on the register who should be on the register. How many so far have used the guarantee system?
The guarantee system, let me get it's about 34.3%. These figures are as at the first phase. The second phase, we'll let you have everything when we are done. Wow. But as at the first phase, the end of the first phase, 34% have used the guarantee system. Yes, as against the 63.3% for the NIA.
There are concerns from the Afram Plains area that they are not getting access to power, and so that has affected the workings of the machines that you have at the registration center. Have these issues come to your attention?
Yes. We have told them to get generators, try and rent generators around and use them for places that they have problem with power. And so that directive has been given, and I'm sure that we should be able to solve that problem.
Oh, but you, the electoral commission, you should know that power will be a problem.
Yes, so we have, that's why we say, instead of buying the generator, they should just try and rent them around, because you might not need them for all the 30 days. Yes, so just rent, and then we pay for the cost. That is it.
And you didn't know this before the start of the exercise, the electoral commission?
No, you see, where we knew there are no power at all, yes, we have made that arrangement already. But some of the places, they used to have power until something happened recently, when they had some challenges and they had to rely on generator or other means of power. And so what we knew, some very remote centers where there's no likelihood of power at all. Yes, we have told our people ahead of time to get the services of generators. But other places where the challenges came up in the course of the exercise, because they used to have power and some reason they don't. That's why we're asking they should also get generators to go to the registration. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Mr. Michael Boedu is Director of Training Electoral Commission. Thank you for your time. We always appreciate your reception all the time. But we have the Joy ballot box, and we have our own people on the ground. Western Amwa is in Hokwe currently, will be joining us live. Also, we have Tanko Ibrahim who will be joining us subsequently from Star Ghana Foundation. But Weston, what can you tell us from where you are in Hokwe?
Well, so Roland, we're currently at the Federation of Persons with Disability in Hokwe. And as you can see, our ballot box is here. we've already, sent the ballot boxes to the Hohoe police station. We've also sent the ballot box to the old municipal assembly. And as you do know, we want to find out from the electorates what are the issues that are going to be influencing the choices they make in this year's election on December 7th. And so currently, I'll be finding out from, persons with disability how they are preparing for the program tomorrow. It's happening at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Old Hohoe Municipal Assembly, and also find out from them the issues that will be influencing the choices that they'll be making. Come with me as I speak with them. Okay, so we've been joined by the president of the persons with, disability here in Hohoe, Elolo. He will be telling us how they're preparing for the program tomorrow. Good morning, Elolo.
Fine morning. You're welcome. As you have already said, the program for tomorrow, we have never dreamt of having such opportunity. So we are ever ready to meet the duty bearers tomorrow, to speak to them, to speak to the government on our issues concerning persons with disability, not in Hohoe, but the whole Ghana. Especially, I have been hammering on these accessibility issues to some of our institutions, government installations and private installations. Is very key to us this year. And we are looking forward to see parties that will be concerned with this, our plight. Then we'll make our choice. So our choice will be based on those who include anything that will benefit persons with disability, not only the concerns of political parties. Yes, we talk of common fund that they are giving us. The common fund is now being taxed through procurement processes. And it is our wish that that system is abolished. We are appealing to the government that systems to be abolished, and then different methods should be adopted, so that because the LIP is also an intervention program, it is not being taxed. Then why disability common fund is being passed through procurement process and it is being taxed? So we are appealing to the government to look at that one also for us and tell us something better, and all other parties to give us something, and even increase the percentage from 3% to 5%, so that it can meet the needs of all the persons with disability. For now, the 3% is being done in tranches. Many of them have not yet accessed the fund. So if it is increased, I believe it will go a long way to benefit our members. So we are with them. We are monitoring them, their manifestos. We are keenly looking through them. And those that will include concerns of PWDs, persons with disabilities, we are ready for them. And I think we will give our consent or our vote to them, so that when they come, we know they will address our problems for us. So I'm only appealing to them that today, our concern, when they address it, tomorrow, any of them can also be like us. So they should feel now as if they are like us, so that they will prepare for the future before they also become like us. So you are welcome, and stay blessed, and then have a blessed day. We will hope to meet them tomorrow, and then we air much of our concerns there too.
Okay, so that's Elolo, who is president, actually, explaining some of the things that we'll be focusing on. He's talked about, the fact that they're looking at persons, or they're looking at political parties that will be addressing issues that concern them, issues of accessibility. Let me just get one other person to tell us what some of those issues that we'll be looking at would be. Let me quickly get to him here and find out from him. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. And then
so do tell us, your preparation, what your expectations are tomorrow, and some of the issues that will be influencing your choices in this year's election.
Okay, thanks so much for the opportunity. For some of the issues that will be moving our vote as persons with disability We want to say that in Hokwe municipality, one thing is also which is very dear to our heart is the Eastern Corridor Road for persons with disability. We don't want to add to our disability. The road is in a deplorable stage, and then it has been for long that we are talking about the Eastern Corridor Road. So we are pleading to the government, any government, that they should come to the aid of the people in the Volta region and fix the Eastern Corridor Road.
So the Joy Ballot Box will be coming to you live from Hokwe, and already as a precursor to the main event on Friday, we'll be bringing to you what the conversations are. We'll do that on Newsdesk, do that also on Joy News Today as well. We do have the boss of Star Ghana Foundation, and Tanko Ibrahim is joining us, Executive Director, Star Ghana Foundation. Now, Mr. Tanko, this is great partnership so far, is it not?
Yes, it is. Joy has always been, the multimedia has always been a partner of choice for Star Ghana Foundation, and we are happy to be working with you on this.
And ultimately, this year's initiative is to make sure we draw in a lot of people into the political election conversation. How do we intend to do that?
Well, Star Ghana Foundation is about active citizenship, exploring the ways and means around which we can galvanize, mobilize, support citizens to be more active, in Ghana's socio-political life. And we think that what this ballot box initiative that you're seeking to implement is one of the various means of enabling, supporting citizens to be more active in Ghana's election 2020. So that is why we're working with you. And we think that it is important that whatever finds expression in the political parties manifesto comes from the people, that people are able to influence the content of these manifestos. So I think that this is also a very important input into the development of the manifestos. But it goes beyond telling the parties what you want. It goes beyond saying that if you don't do this, we wouldn't vote or we wouldn't vote for you. I think there needs to be consistent pressure, advocacy, to ensure that first, these things find expression in the manifestos, but that subsequently we monitor how they are implemented when the party that has made those promises comes to power.
Now, just in 60 seconds, how has coronavirus impacted the structure of how you had intended to do the electioneering with the various individual organizations?
Well, I mean, traditionally we've supported, debates, parliamentary debates, presidential debates, vice presidential debates. These may have to be modified in the context of Corona. And we think that bringing people together to, discuss these issues is also something that is going to be constrained by the current circumstances. But where there's a will, there's always a way. And we look forward to working with you to develop innovative ways of ensuring that our people still have a voice and participate actively in all the processes of election 2020.
Thank you very much. Ibrahim Tanko, Executive Director for Star Ghana Foundation. Great connection there on Zoom and great interaction. Well, it's where we have to transition and bring you the latest highlights from the world of showbiz. Kadi is ready.